Hello everyone, I'm Chase, a Rocky Mountain ATV giving you a closer look at the V3 RS helmet from Fox Racing. All right everyone, thanks for checking in. Today we're giving you a closer look at the new V3 RS helmet from Fox Racing. RS stands for Race Spec if you're not aware of that. A lot of you are probably wondering what the heck did they change already? Because we saw Fox go back to the drawing board not too long ago and completely revamp the V3. It hasn't been that long, but they've already come out with some significant changes to this helmet. A lot of them, in my opinion, were needed. So I'm glad to see that Fox was listening to the consumer, listening to their top riders saying, hey, how can we take a helmet that we know is rock solid, but how can we make it even better? So props to those guys for doing this. Now, some of the big updates that we are going to talk about more in depth is they've improved the fit of the helmet, which I'm very happy to see. They've also lightened it up quite a bit. So we'll talk about the weight of the helmet. And also with the previous V3, they had a really cool technology called their fluid and side pods. They've done away with those and now using the MIPS Liner system, which a lot of us are familiar with, multi-directional impact protection system. I will explain why they went to the MIPS Liner system versus the fluid and side pods. But you'll also notice too that the new V1 from Fox, the V2, and the V3 all now share the MIPS Liner system. And again, I'll explain why they made some of these changes as we go through and we talk about this. But if you're new to the V3, it's your first time watching the Product Spotlight, welcome. We're going to go through and talk about everything that goes into this helmet and help you decide if this is going to be the next helmet for you. But before we dive in and we talk about the features, let's just talk about fit real quick, because that was one of the big things that Fox wanted to improve with the V3, again, coming from consumers, coming from the riders. With the previous V3, which I own, that helmet for a lot of riders had some pressure in the front of the head and the back. I noticed that. It wasn't a deal breaker. I could wear my V3 all day long, I had no issues, but I could definitely see how for some people it was a deal breaker. So Fox, they've redesigned with the EPS liner, their Verizorb liner, which we'll talk about. They've changed it to where now they've gotten rid of a lot of that pressure that, myself and some riders felt in the front as well as the back. So for me personally, I think the fit is much improved. So props to Fox for doing that. But you got to remember, no matter what helmet you buy, if you're not happy with how it fits, you can send it back in brand new unused condition. We want to make sure you get the size and the fit that you are looking for, so we give you free shipping both ways on your first exchange. It could be for the same helmet in a different size or a completely different helmet, just to make sure you get exactly what you are looking for. Some other unique features about this. You've got 4 different shell sizes, and each shell size has its own EPS size. And what's nice about that is, one, you get an optimized fit depending on the size of your head, and for the smaller helmet sizes, you're going to help keep that weight down a little bit. But a size medium, another big update here, you've got their MCT, multi-composite technology for the shell. You got carbon fiber and other resins inside there. They've lightened this sucker up quite a bit. I weighed this myself, a size medium, 2 pounds, 15 ounces. Welcome to the sub 3 pound category, Fox Racing. I know there's a lot of other helmet companies out there that are bringing the weight of their helmets down. And that was one thing I was kind of disappointed with when they came out with their V3 originally, is they didn't get it around that 3 pound mark. I think it was about 3 pounds, 3 or 4 ounces in a size medium. And when you wear a helmet that is 3 pounds or less, and then you wear a helmet that's say 4 or 5 ounces heavier than that, you do notice that weight difference. You can feel that. Some riders might not be a big deal, but for me, I like a helmet to feel lightweight. And so I'm really glad to see that they did lighten this helmet up quite a bit. Now, looking at it, the shell design is very, very similar. You almost can't tell the difference between the V3 RS and the previous V3, but there are some differences I want to point out. With the previous V3, they had their cage in the front, which is essentially a separate piece of a composite plastic that made up the entire front of the helmet. They did away with that. Now you just have the MCT, which makes up the entire shell. You still have the massive vents on the chin bar, which is awesome, and the vents in the front, which we'll talk about. But that's how they were able to get some of that weight down, is by just making the entire chin bar or the entire helmet one piece. Also, with the chin bar area, they're using EPP versus EPS. It's like EPS where it does absorb impacts, but it's also very lightweight. They did that to keep the weight down a little bit. That is one difference also when we talk about some of the safety features built in. You got to talk about MVRS, which is their magnetic visor release system. They have a hybrid style of that now. So now with their visor, and you can see the visor does have a lot of give to it, but you still have the magnet in the center, but then on the sides, instead of having magnets there, you now have screws. And those screws are shear away, so if you do go down and you do smack your head and you get enough force applied to the visor, those screws are designed to shear off. What's nice about those screws though is that if you look closely, you can actually see that inside there's a little Allen key or a spot for an Allen key. So if you did shear one of those off, you can take an Allen wrench, back that screw out, and then put your new visor on, you're good to go. Here's why they did this. You still want the visor to break away when enough force is applied. And with the MVRS system where they just had the 3 magnets, they were still having problems with some riders where they would maybe go down and something as simple as a tip over and the visor popped off. Or maybe you did crash, but you were well enough that you could get up, you could continue riding, but your visor would come off. Now in a race scenario, it's not ideal if your visor comes off and you're still able to get up and go, because you don't want to have to stop and try and look for your visor and then put it back on. So they went to this style to, one, help the visor stay on in those situations so that, like something like a tip over or even roost. Roost nowadays is gnarly coming off those 450s, and with the previous version of the MVRS, even roost would sometimes knock that visor off. So they did that to keep the visor on better, but still allow it to shear off if it does need to. So that's why they did that. As far as the venting goes, that is one thing that I think the V3 has always been killer at. You've got a ton of really big vents on here to get as much airflow as possible. When you look at the front on the chin bar, you notice you have these massive vents right here, and you do feel air coming through those. I think the V3, honestly, probably one of the better venting helmets that is out there. You've got these big vents here underneath the visor. When you look at the back, you can see you've got the exhaust vents. You notice down here too, I forgot to mention earlier, you are going to be DOT and ECE certified. You get a lot of airflow coming through. It takes that hot air, gets it out the back, and when we pull out the comfort liner on the inside in just a minute, you'll see that they have big channels that are cut out into their VariZorb liner to help that air escape. So that's the outside. Let's now talk about the inside. Another cool little upgrade, if you want to call it, to help keep the weight down a little bit, is the D-rings are carbon fiber. So no longer using steel there, carbon fiber. I think it just looks really cool, and you are dropping the weight just a little bit. As far as the cheek pads go, what's cool about the cheek pads now is that they are interchangeable. If you get this helmet, and we already talked about the fit guarantee, but if you do get this helmet and you're like, you know what, I like how the medium fits around the crown of my head, the cheek pads are too tight or they're too loose, you can get different thickness cheek pads to make sure you get the helmet to fit exactly how you want it. You do have emergency cheek pad removal system. What that means, you have these little tabs right here at the ends. So if a rider goes down and you need to get the cheek pads out so you can get the helmet off as easily as possible, these just help you have a good point to grab and to pull to get those cheek pads to pop out. So pop these out real quick. Get my other one here. All right, and these cheek pads, just FYI, it's this ecstatic liner, which is actually very comfortable, antimicrobial. Wash it, dry it out. You can see on the back here, 45 millimeter. Again, they're gonna have different thicknesses that you can choose from if you want those to fit a little bit differently. But now we'll pull out the comfort liner. All right, so with that out, here's a couple of the big improvements. So like I mentioned earlier, as far as those vents go, you can see those vents that are cut in there. And if you look at the top here, you can even see that hole is going directly to the shell of the helmet. Again, you want the air to circulate, you want to get it out of there. But like I mentioned, they are now using the MIPS Liner system. MIPS stands for Multi-Directional Impact Protection System. And the purpose of this is to create a slip zone inside the helmet between the comfort liner. So you got your rider's head, you got the comfort liner, and the MIPS goes in between the liner and the EPS. And what it's there to do is manage your rotational forces. When a rider goes down, you want the helmet to continue rotating inside the helmet after the helmet smacks the ground. And the purpose for that is you don't want the head to come to a sudden stop. The more and the longer it can continue rotating, the more it will help reduce that energy and those forces to the rider's head and to the rider's neck. MIPS Liner system is very trusted. We've been seeing it now for years and years. It's used in a lot of other premium helmets. And like I mentioned before, the V3 RS, Fox had their fluid inside pods. And the big reasons why they went away from those to this, because the fluid inside pods work great, but two big reasons here. First of all, they wanted to have a universal rotational management system throughout all their helmets from the V1 up to the V3. So they want to have, say, now with the V1, you've got the MIPS, which is the same great, innovative technology that you have in the V3. And also going to the MIPS Liner system, that was one aspect that allowed them to improve the fit when they were redesigning this. So those are a couple of the big reasons there. Now, on top of that, you look inside here, and if you look at the EPS, this is what they call VariZorb. and it looks way different than most EPS liners that you're used to seeing. And Verizorb is a dual density EPS liner, but this is also another change that they made. With the previous Verizorb liner, with the non-RS version, it was a cone shaped. So you basically have a white EPS and a black EPS, and think of it as cones, and they would come together. Now what they've done is you're still taking those two densities of that EPS, but think of if you took white salt, black salt, put it into a jar, shook it all up. That's essentially what you're doing, is you're mixing the dual densities inside there. So now what they're saying is that you're getting a uniform multi-density impact protection system all the way across the entire EPS of the helmet. So they're saying that it's going to do even a better job of absorbing the impacts than just the Verizorb, the previous Verizorb, which had the cone shape to it. So that's another big reason why that's another big update that they have. You got the MIPS liner system, different style with that dual density Verizorb EPS liner. But those are the big changes, again, that they've made to this. I also do want to point out, you can see this does come eject helmet removal system ready. That does not come included. You can buy it separately, but you go to our website, we have that available. You buy it, you install it inside here, and the way it works, you can see all the top riders, in fact, they have to wear that for Supercross and Motocross, is it allows you actually to plug in. There's a little tube that comes down the bottom here, and you can blow it up, think of it like a balloon at the top of your helmet, and as you expand that and fill it with air, it will slowly start to push the helmet off the rider's head. So it's a great safety feature in the event that you do need it. And that is it. That is the new V3 RS or race spec helmet from Fox Racing. Those are the big updates. You've got the MIPS liner system. They've improved the fit. They've lightened it up quite a bit. And you've got a different style with that Verizorb EPS liner. If you do have questions or comments, we want to get those answers, so make sure to leave those below. To grab one of these, click on the link or head over to RockyMountainATVMC.com. And remember, orders over $75 ship free. I've said it once, I'll say it again. We have our fit guaranteed just so you get the fit that you're looking for. And if you like this product spotlight, make sure it gets subscribed to the Rocky Mountain YouTube channel. That way you're always up to date on the latest product spotlights, on the latest and greatest gear from all the companies, like the one you just watched. I am Chase, and we'll see you on the trails.